Hi, favorite teacher. I'm Tori from Next Day Teaching, where I give you classroom management tips and strategies that you can use tomorrow. Today, I want to talk about the beginning of the year. Actually, before the beginning of the year, I want to talk about your back to school bulletin board. Now, it might seem like a back to school bulletin board doesn't really have a whole lot to do with classroom management. But if you think about it, your bulletin boards and your walls in general set the tone for what the year is going to be like in your classroom. They give students insight into your classroom culture, into your theme if you have one, your energy level, and generally what students can expect throughout the year. For example, if you've got bright, loud colors on your wall, you're probably high energy and your students can expect a lot of really fun activities in your class. On the other hand, if you've got more muted colors and a calm, orderly layout, your students can probably expect to escape the chaos in your classroom. You're a very logical, analytical, procedure-based teacher. Those back-to-school bulletin boards are doing a pretty big job. So here's how to set up your back to school bulletin board. First, you're going to choose a theme. Now, middle school teachers, don't tune me out. Just because I say theme doesn't mean I'm talking only to elementary. In fact, I made a classroom decor line specifically for middle school teachers called Calm Cactus. It's great for teachers who want that support or want that theme, but aren't looking for cutesy graphics and bright colors. Or maybe your theme is red and blue, or whatever your school colors are. That's step one. Just think about what you want on your walls. Then decide if you're going to make it a year-long bulletin board or a seasonal one. If it's year-long, you want to make sure that the layout you pick is going to hold up across the months and across the units that you teach. If it's seasonal, you'll probably want something that welcomes students back to school, acknowledges fall, or something that has to do with the unit that you're starting the year with. Then you're going to get the pieces and start putting them up. I'm not going to walk you through that. You are perfectly capable of designing a bulletin board layout on your own. I do want to leave you with a pro tip though. A lot of teachers in your school are probably going to be using bulletin board paper. And it makes sense. It comes in the art room usually. It comes on those giant rolls on the cart. You tear off a piece and you're trailing a cape down the hallway. Here's why I don't love those. First of all, they fade. If your bulletin board gets any amount of sunlight, as soon as you take a piece off, you're going to see exactly where that piece was because the colors all around it are going to be a more muted shade than underneath where it was protected from the sunlight. Second of all, they tear. So if you've got a seasonal bulletin board and you're constantly taking things off and on and off and on and off and on, you're going to end up with a lot of little micro tears or even possibly one big tear if a student's backpack catches on a corner. So if your budget allows, I suggest using fabric instead. Go to your local fabric store, take a look at what they have. Generally, I found that busy patterns don't work as well because they take away the focus from what's on the bulletin board itself. But with that said, I also don't recommend just a plain color unless that's your vibe. Hey, no judgment. But if it's sort of a gentle pattern like a marbled texture or sort of a tie-dye effect, maybe like a solid color tie-dye effect, I've had a lot of success with that. And then you can get it the same pattern or the same dye pattern. I'm not a fabric expert. Please don't yell at me. In multiple colors. So you could have, for example, one board be green, another board be blue, another board be pink or yellow. So all the boards will look like they go together, even though they're all different colors. So one year I used sort of that tie-dye effect. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. There we go. So it's a yellow, but it's got kind of this tie-dye effect. Now the fabric store that I used, I was really lucky because they had this same pattern in blue and green and pink. So I was able to have all of my bulletin boards be different colors, but also still look unified. Another year, I used this more muted red, which sort of has like a crackle texture in black. Now this was for the really skinny bulletin boards that were up on top of my my whiteboard space at the front of the room. So very few students could actually see that the black lines were there, but it just sort of brought everything together. It gave it a little bit more depth. It's kind of like movie props where the prop maker or the set designer puts all these little intricate details that you don't actually notice when you're watching the movie, but if they weren't there, it would look really flat. That's the idea you're going for with fabric. It looks really classy. It holds up for the entire year. Just make sure that you measure the bulletin board before you start buying fabric. In fact, measure the bulletin board twice and have someone else check your work, because the worst thing is to run out of fabric and then have like an awkward corner that you can never ever leave uncovered because you didn't have enough fabric to cover the full bulletin board. One other thing, when you're putting the fabric up, make sure that you stretch it. Don't like yank it. We're not playing tug of war with the thing, but do give it a little bit of tautness so that it lays perfectly flat. And like I said, looks really classy. So when I'm preparing my classroom for back to school, I like to start with the bulletin board because it gives me a quick win. It very visibly changes the look and feel of the classroom right away. And it's kind of fun. So then once my bulletin boards are set up, then I can get to the rest of my back to school tasks. Taking inventory of supplies, arranging the desks, arranging the teacher's desk, preparing copies, setting up systems. Now, if all of this feels overwhelming, don't worry. I did make a free resource to help you remember everything. It's a room setup checklist, so you know exactly what to make, do, and prepare before students walk through the door on day one. The link is in the description below. Download that checklist today and start setting up your classroom tomorrow. I hope you have calm transitions and quiet hallways.